What's going on, guys? Greg here, and you are tuned into the August 2023 edition of The Dot, the show where we go over all the best new music of the month and feature call-ins and songs from artists you may have overlooked in a busy month of new music. This month, we're going to go through new releases between July 22nd and August 18th. August was a lot different than July. Last month, we talked about how surprisingly active the month of July was. August came back down a notch. We did still get some notable releases from some big names like Post Malone and Travis Scott, but really this was a slower month than previous. Also, we'll talk about some music news later in the episode. Weird month of music news this month. Some other notable releases that stood out to me were the Front Bottoms, Jungle, No Name, Hozier, Renee Rapp, Russ, and Tosh Sultana. So we will do the run through of the chronological order of albums that stood out to me later on in the show as well. But let's go down under to a producer from Sydney, Australia, Russell Fitzgibbon, who released the pseudonym Skeleton back in 2020, and he put out his debut album under the name Skeleton for us on July 28th, and that album was called Under Utopia, and we're gonna check out the song Territory Day off of that album to get this episode kicked off. Enjoy. Doug Wallen from NME did a review of this album and said the Sydney producer's first album is Skeleton fleshes out club summonses with confident vocals and articulate narratives, and gave the album a 4 out of 5.
I won't eat, won't sleep, won't go out, try my luck. I wanna use your love, mix it up, choke me with it. I won't eat, won't sleep, won't go out, try my luck. I wanna use your love, mix it up, choke me with it.
Skeleton there with the song Territory Day. Such a good track. The whole album was really good, as you heard from that NME review. Check that whole album out when you get a chance. So let's go north to London and the 5-piece indie folk band called Bo Jockey, who released their debut self-titled album in early August. Elizabeth Brayton from rightchordmusic.co did a nice write-up on this band, went in depth about this debut album. Recommend you check that article out. The 5-piece is made up of Samuel, Dustin, Alex, Remy, and Helena, and Helena took the time to call in to introduce the song we're going to listen to off that debut album called Magpie.
Hey, it's Helena here from Bojockey, and thanks so much for having us on The Dot. Shortly you're going to hear our track Magpie. This is the 4th track on our debut self-titled album, and it's one of our absolute favourites to play live as a band. This track is about having difficult conversations with the people you truly care about, and that really, no matter what happens, no matter the changes in life, that you're always going to be there for them. So we really hope you enjoy.
Oh, Magpie, how did you join the choir? Did you lie and tell them you were clean? All these drugs you took in my apartment, you brought the bags for easy speak. And as eager daylight rising, you stand straight, soaked through to the skin. Did you listen too close to the gambling man who says it's love if you're winning? Who says it's love if you're winning? 'Cause oh, my love is a spinning wheel, and it will be till the day I choose to die, as I push it up this steadying hill. Oh, you'll be disappointed you weren't there when I tried. Oh, sweet bird, how did you find the autumn? Did you find any love that was near? And did you travel through the city and the old burn to leave your doubts close to family, dear?
Fantastic track there from Bojockey. I usually let songs go about a minute 30 seconds. I went over that because it was such a good track, did not want to cut it off. The songwriting is really what stands out with that band. Like we talked about, they released their debut self-titled album this past month, so try to check that out. And let's go over to another band who displayed some really tremendous songwriting off an EP they released this past month called Hydrangea. This is the band Joyner, and on August 23rd, they had a listening party down in Nashville, Tennessee at Third Man Records, and Steven Tragster from NashvilleScene.com did a write-up about what shows you could see in Nashville over the weekend and talked a little bit about Joyner's listening party and their show that weekend. But I really like what he said, and he started it by saying, Joyner is more in the rocking vein of artists like Lucy Dacus, and I think that's a really good way to introduce this new band. So happy to come across them this past month. And like I said at the top of introducing them, the songwriting in this band stands out as well, just like we said with Bojockey. So with that being said, let's check out the song Hot Things off the new EP from Joyner. Enjoy.
I feel like your voice is too loud. I've never said that before, but I'm saying it now. It's too loud in my head and in this house, so please turn it down. It's all talk until the conversation starts. All fun and games until you start to get pulled apart. You gotta start like my college degree. You're pulling me apart. And I don't wanna use my manners all the time. Too many times I thought that it was fine. Like a baby touching hot things. I couldn't forget how it felt to me.
Joyner with the song Hot Things off the EP they released for us this past month. And we talked about how Joyner had their release party at Third Man Records in Nashville. Let's stay in Nashville and go to Great American Canyon Band, the band out of Nashville, Tennessee, who released a new song for us this past month called You Were There. This is the first music we're getting since the debut from this band back in 2016 that was met with praise by publications like NPR and Stereo Gum. You'll hear the influences with this band from bands like The National and Slow Dive. Loved this new single and also really loved the fact that Paul and Chris from Great American Canyon Band called in to introduce this new song, You Were the One.
Hey, I'm Paul,
I'm Chris.
and we are Great American Canyon Band from Nashville, Tennessee.
And we just released our new song, You Were the One.
We did.
And, there are millions of songs that celebrate new love. And we wrote You Were the One to actually not. It's one of those rare tributes to the profound beauty of old love, where you're delving deep into the intricacies of enduring inside of a long-term relationship.
Yeah, we wanted to hear a song that had been written by artists who, in our minds, had weathered storms and savored joys and just knew what it was like to sort of have that wisdom and that unbreakable sense of connection that really only old love carries. It was our attempt to create, I guess, a vibrant portrait of memories and try and just touch that part of the soul. So this is You Were the One. We hope you enjoy it.
Thank you for listening.
Take it slow, I can feel anymore. Take it slow, you could not steal anymore. Take it slow, I cannot bleed anymore. Take it slow, I cannot be anyone. You were the one. But it's a long story now. You were the one. But it's a long story now. Take it slow now, eyes are closed. Take it slow, I've never been so low. Take it slow, I've learned faith I've had. Now I stand here, my hopes unclad. You were the one. But it's a long story now. It's a long story now.
Special thank you to Paul and Chris for calling in to introduce that new song. Really loved that sound. Hopefully we have another album coming soon. Like I said, the last album we had was from back in 2016, which is just about 7 years ago at this point. So hoping we get a new album from them soon. So at the top of the episode, I kind of mentioned that this month was a little bit of a weird month when it came to music news. There wasn't huge releases or a consistent amount of huge releases like we saw last month. Talked about how Post Malone and Travis Scott were probably the two biggest notable releases. Those both happened at the very end of July, so technically they weren't even in August. I still don't know. Rumor has it Drake's going to be dropping his album in late August, but that won't be included in this podcast. Roll that over into the next podcast. As far as news goes, we're talking about things like the Lizzo lawsuit. If you don't know about what's going on with Lizzo, it's super bizarre, almost unbelievably ironic. Tory Lanez got sentenced to 10 years in prison for him shooting Meg Thee Stallion in the foot a couple of years ago. Scooter Braun lost Ariana Grande, lost Demi Lovato. It sounds like he's going to be losing Justin Bieber as well. Probably some more negative news is coming out about Scooter Braun. Then you have the whole Lil Tay situation. And again, this is kind of the news that stood out. I like to kind of be a little more positive. The other thing I want to touch on with music news is the quickest rise and fall on the fall I've ever seen with the artist Oliver Anthony. He released the song Rich Men North of Richmond on August 11th, and it went completely viral. Everyone's gravitating towards it. Really bizarre songs. In the first half of the song, he talks about how no one's paid enough and kind of screw all the billionaires. Then in the second half of the song, he's like, but then we shouldn't have these social programs. People take advantage of welfare. So it was like, where does he really stand on the political spectrum? But the notable thing on the music end of this is he became the first artist ever to reach #1 on the Billboard Top 100 without ever charting before that. That is quite a feat. Apparently he's been offered some multi-million-dollar deals and turned them all down. He's not interested in pursuing music, so I doubt we'll really hear from Oliver Anthony again, but quite an interesting month we had here in the month of August, especially when it came to music news. Let's also run down the release of albums from artists this past month, going all the way back to July 28th, where we got the Carly Rae Jepsen album. We also got a really great album from George Clanton. I really like his music. Bia, Jesse Lanza, and we also got the Post Malone and the Travis Scott albums on that last Friday of July. Going into the first Friday of August, we got a really cool album from Current Joys. Current Joys actually had a song with a feature from Lil Yachty on it. He had an electronic song. Really interesting album from Current Joys. Girl Ray, who I tried to get on the podcast, released a great album. Miles Kane, and I mentioned at the top of the show, the Front Bottoms came out with a really good album. August 11th, love the day of August 11th. New album from Emotional Oranges. Jungle released a fun album for us. No Name and Reason released albums, and Reason actually got into it on a podcast with the leader of TDE, which is a really interesting thing if you want to look into that. Also, Small Pools gave us an album on August 11th. Then this last Friday, we're covering August 18th. As always, with these last Fridays, we're covering on the podcast. Still letting these albums soak in a little bit before I really have an opinion on them. But on the 18th, we got a new album from Dizzy. Fiddlehead released a new album. Hozier gave us an album. Mick Jenkins. Renee Rapp has come through. Her singles have been really good. Russ gave us a new album, and Tosh Sultana. So those were the albums that kind of capped off what we're covering this past month. Like I said, not as heavy hitting, or as consistently heavy hitting, I should say, as July, but still had some notable names give us albums. We're heading into September. September is always a big month of album releases, so very excited for that. Okay, let's go to a band who released a single on August 11th called Cast Me Away. This is the band Flaxies with 2 X's, so Flaxxies. They released their debut album back in 2020. I read on Under the Radar that it looks like this single, Cast Me Away, Away is off their forthcoming debut EP called Sunstruck, and they're going to be touring that EP here in September. Like I said, I read an Under the Radar write-up about Flaxies and this new single done by Chris Cudby, and in there Chris says the Flaxies fusion of reggae, classic blues, and dub elements make for a memorable listening experience. So really excited for that EP, really excited to feature their song on the podcast. This is Flaxies with their song Cast Me Away.
On an island lost at sea, you were taken away from me for another reason. Now my heart is bleeding. I came up for air. No surprises, you weren't there. Waiting on confirmation, taking me out of the equation. Cast me away for the day I've been let down. Well, I've got news for you, just leave me Cutting my edge like stone. You've been doing it on your own. I know I'm scared to be left alone, but you're making it hard for me to go. Checking into house hotel. Can you add them ringing the bells? I know I'm scared to be left alone, but I'm making it hard for me to go. So cast me away for the day I've been let down. Well, I've got news for you, just leave me
Flaxies there with the song Cast Me Away off their forthcoming EP called Sunstruck. Keep your eye out for that. Very excited for that to come around. Let's go to New York City and the artist Ivry, IVRI, who released the single Brain Rot this past month. And Ivry has been a hot up-and-comer in this bedroom pop and lo-fi pop community. This song will really showcase exactly why she's become so popular in that space. The song Brain Rot is off her upcoming debut EP that will be released soon. She started releasing music back in 2020. She's been releasing singles all the way through the years up until now, and this month she gave us Brain Rot. And there's a great article on Ones to Watch written by Jasmine Kylene, and Jasmine got the chance to talk to Ivry about this song, and Ivry said Brain Rot is a play on a word I learned about called heart rot, when a tree ends up rotting from the inside out. The song is me personifying that feeling of not knowing what to do when negative feelings take over, whether they root from a romantic aspect or a more personal one. So that's great insight into what this song is all about. Let's check it out. This is Ivry with her new song that came out this past month called Brain Rot.
All you do is dream. All that remains is a broken
Brain Rot off her upcoming EP. Really unique sound from Ivry. A lot of her songs have that unique sound, that unique vibe to it. Check her out, give her a follow, because I think we have some big things coming in the future from Ivry. And speaking of another great artist with a really unique sound, let's go to Max, who released the single All This Time this past month off his upcoming EP called Made in Bleach. And Max called in to talk about this song and also teased that there is more to come. So I'm going to throw it over to Max to introduce his new song, All This Time.
Hey, this is Max, and thank you for having me on The Dot. This is my song All This Time, which is the first song on the second EP I've released this year. It's about meeting a girl in a club and going on holiday with her 4 days later. I wrote it just before we went away, and I wasn't sure how things were going to progress afterwards, as I was getting kicked out of home and she was moving back to Germany to live there forever. In the meantime, I moved into an abandoned primary school in London and somehow managed to convince her to move into the school with me. That holiday was 3 months ago, and she's been living here for a month. These releases have come at the end of a year-long stint of locking myself away in the countryside, where I've written, recorded and produced 4 distinct EPs entirely myself. I'm going to be releasing a song every 4 weeks, so if you like this, there's another one coming very soon.
Yeah, all this time I spent on you took my mind, broke it in two. All this time I spent on you. Yeah, okay. What if I said I think I like you? I kinda feel for the guy who's the other dude, 'cause you've been wearing my clothes since I met you. And now she asking me things I think I tell her the truth. And it's like, oh baby, let's waste time. Get a plane, chase sunshine. I only met you late last night, and now you calling me up, and we've been booking some flights. And it's like, all the time I spent on you, all the time I spent on you. Could you keep me hanging on, spend on you? Yeah, all this time I spent on you, you took my mind, broke it in two. Yeah, all this time I spent on you. Oh, what if I said I think I like you? You're kinda saying all these things the way that I do, and then you go and save my songs on your iTunes. Man, I think you're changing me to say some words I never knew. Like, oh baby, let's waste time. I look at old pictures from FaceTime. Yeah. I only met you late last night, and now you calling me up, and we've been booking some flights. And it's like, all this time I spent on you, all this time I spent on you, so you keep me hanging on.
Hi, this is Flaws. Thank you so much for having me on The Dot, and thanks for featuring my song Talking Through You, featuring Laloy. So Talking Through You for me is about not being able to properly communicate or articulate your feelings towards another person, in a relationship, for example. So you might be talking to each other, but you don't listen or understand each other, thus, in a sense, talking through each other instead of talking to each other. I think Laloy added to this concept very nicely by introducing a second character to the story and, expressing a different perspective on things, almost turning it into some kind of a duet between two people. And I would say that's about it. Thanks again for having me on the show, and hope you enjoy.
Calm down, stay put. I know you wanna get out of this silhouette town. Oh, the walls are covered in soot. But let's take some time to realign, 'cause I'm talking through you. Talking through you. Talking through you. Talking
So please hear me out. I don't wanna keep on walking through you. Walking through you. Walking through you. Walking through you. Slow down, ease off. It's not a race against time. Hit the brakes for a moment. I'm not falling for you. So please hear me out. I don't wanna keep on. And it's not made for
Max, spelled M4X, I should have said before. Max with his song All This Time, right into a earworm of a song with Flaws' new track, Talking Through You, featuring Laloy. That was a really cool song, one of those songs that stuck out as I went through all the new music this past month. So happy that Flaws was able to call in and give us a little background. And with that being said, that's going to bring us to the very last song of the episode here in August 2023. This month we listened to new music from Skeleton, Bo Jockey, Joyner, Great American Canyon Band, Flaxies, Ivry, Max, spelled M4X. We just heard Flaws with Laloy, and we're going to get played out this month with the artist Young Summer, who released her new song Emotionally High on August 11th. Young Summer has an interesting timeline, releasing her debut album back at the end of 2013 into 2014, and looks like she's due to release her sophomore album in the fall of this year, almost 10 years after her debut album. She did not disappoint with this single, so we're going to get played out by the song Emotionally High. Guys, thank you so much for listening and tuning in to this episode. Make sure you keep your eye out for your favorite artists and check out some artists you might not know that are coming around your area. Support these artists so they can keep making great music for us, and always remember,
it only happens once a month, so you must be on the dot.
blue lights. I gotta cover my eyes now, so I don't dive into the deep end. I had the worst time getting out. How does it feel not to feel it all of the time? 'Cause I can feel everything just like it's mine.